Hello, everybody. We have I know Osman just did an incredible talk there, but we had him just join the panel as a surprise guest, along with Simon here from Deliveroo. So, hello, everyone. I'm Hannah Parvaz. I run a growth consultancy, a full-service growth consultancy called Aperture. I've been in the app space for about 15 years. So, hey, Tim, I'm very excited here that PGC has started running an app day. It's like really perfect for me. It's really awesome to be kind of taking part in this with Duolingo as well. So today's panel is really about a point that a lot of very successful apps reach. It's really about whenever we start to think about what other jobs does someone want to do within our app, what other things might someone want to hire us for, and that moment when a product stops being just for one experience and becoming a container for many. So sometimes that looks like just simply adding entirely new categories inside the app. You know, now you can play chess, learn chess, or sometimes it looks like layering payments or commerce or business tooling on top of core behaviors. Sometimes it's more of a portfolio approach where growth, identity, monetization, they're just shared across multiple products. But underneath all of this, the question is the same. How do you expand without losing what made people care in the first place? So we've got 4 people on stage today that are kind of living very different versions of this challenge. So we've got Osman, who we've just seen did an incredible job, Simon, Sebastian, and Piyush. So I'm going to ask you all to just quickly introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your role, your company, and then we'll get into the thick of it. So Osman, we'll just start with you and then work this way.
Yeah. Everyone, or most people who were in the room right before this saw me speak. I'm a product manager at Duolingo, mostly focused on a lot of the growth and retention work that we do.
Simon, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Simon. I'm a new recruit to Duolingo, working newest subjects. Came in via acquisition from the games industry, and so my super app experience is kind of limited. That's why I wrote in for this. But yeah, tried to do similar things in gaming context, and I worked at Skype back in the day where we did a lot of this sort of stuff.
Hey everyone, I'm Piyush. I'm right now group director of UA at Nazara. It's in the gaming space. But over here on the panel, like more to get into the experience of working at Uber. That's where Uber is sort of transitioning into they're trying to transition into a Uber app. So that's the one that I'm gonna get into, and also Simon, like on the gaming side, like what we've tried to achieve on our side as well. So nice to meet you, and nice to hopefully having a good conversation.
Absolutely. And Sebastian?
Hi, everyone. So I'm Sebastian. I'm the Programmatic Partnerships Manager at Rakuten Viber. If you haven't heard of Rakuten Viber, we are a messaging app and are now moving into becoming a super app.
Incredible. It's very exciting, and we were chatting earlier about what that actually means. And everybody uses the term super app differently. It means a different thing for Viber and Duolingo and Uber and all of these different products. So I want to just explain for our audience here today what actually is a super app in 2026, and also what is not a super app in 2026. I'll go to you first, Sebastian.
Sure. So for us, it's not just cramming 50 features into your app. We are looking at how people are using the app today and how we can complement that experience. So an example would be within certain countries, we see certain behaviors. In Greece, we see that you can already talk to businesses, but the use case was that people were submitting their meter readings to their electricity company, and then they would send like PDFs, and we use those signals to identify opportunities. So we've launched payments, ability to pay between businesses and between peers. And that's kind of how we're looking at it. How can we add additional value to our users and remove some of that friction to stop them leaving the app?
Awesome. Piyush?
He took the user side, so I'm going to take the advertiser side. Yeah. Just because, look, I mean, from an advertiser perspective, nobody in the industry that has ever started to, with the name of becoming a super app, it sort of transitioned into that space, right? Similar to Viber and Uber and everybody else. Because I think it solves the problem of distribution. You want the user to stick to the app, right, at the end of the day, and it solves the entire UA cost that you're going to get for you to get the same user through a dating app or through a WhatsApp Pay or whatever that version of the super app is. It has been in the works for the last 5-6 years in China, and that has really sort of become very big. In the West, it's yet to become big, in my opinion. Like, it's not there yet. And also, I think there's going to be an impact of agentic AI and stuff like that coming in, and see how that transitions into it. But from an advertiser perspective, he's rightly told the user side. From an advertiser perspective, it just makes sense that it's just about solving the distribution side and getting the user to stick to the app while performing different functions, rightly said, based on the data that you're seeing within the app.
And you're just talking about China and East Asia as well. There's apps like Grab there and things where everything is unified into one specific product. But I mean, just to call back to Uber, Uber decided strategically to have two different apps for Uber and Uber Eats. Like, can you talk a bit about that?
No, so slightly different, because right now you can order food through Uber.
Yeah.
You have that. Uber Eats was a separate app because it started as a separate app in 2016. But the idea because I was there, Dara kept on saying that we want to become the super app of transport, essentially. So now you're seeing every single feature being added, which is getting into the entire booking, Expedia, Booking.com space. Yeah. They're launching their own taxi, and autonomous cars and stuff like that. So they want to become, his vision at that point, I mean, that was also Travis' vision, which is end-to-end mobility should be solved by Uber. So this is an example of being within the same category. For example, what Viber is doing or what WhatsApp is doing, it's cross-pollination of different categories itself, right? Which is Viber is getting into dating space, as Sebastian and I were talking about it. And WhatsApp, for example, in India and Brazil, they're getting into WhatsApp Pay, and they're getting into they already have a dating app through Facebook or something like that, but they're not integrating right now. So for me, this Uber model makes a lot more sense because it's within one category. Absolutely. And I'm not sort of disagreeing with it. Who knows where the world is sort of leading into, but it's sort of a different cross-pollination of genres in that sense.
Thank you. We'll come more to that in a bit, but Simon, go ahead.
I like to think of it from a consumer perspective. So if you've got two distinct features or services or businesses that make sense sort of being unified from a consumer's perspective, that to me is a super app, as opposed to, say, distinct features that might not stand alone, or sort of back-end synergies that we as app developers would love to exploit. But like, when it makes sense from a user perspective, that's kind of like my definition of super app. I don't know.
Thank you. And this one might be good for Osman, but because you've been at Duolingo, how long were you there? Have you been there?
5 years now.
5 years. So you know a lot about what's been going on there. So when Duolingo, for example, decided to expand, how did you decide how to do it, like horizontal expansion, going deeper into a specific vertical? What was that process? What was that decision framework that you had?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story, and I wasn't fully involved in a lot of these decisions, so I'll speak to how much I know. But maybe something that folks might know is when Duolingo was first getting into other subjects, the first one we did a foray into was math, and we had actually launched that as a separate app. There was a separate Duolingo math app that you could download, and we were working on that for, I can't remember how long, maybe a year. And there was a strategic pivot that we made a few years back where we realized that building out different apps for different subjects will get pretty unwieldy pretty quick. There's a lot of synergies that we weren't leveraging, things like that. So we reversed that decision and then decided math and any new subject we add going forward will all live under the same one Duolingo app. And we did that for a lot of reasons of easier from the consumer, the learner perspective of, if I want to learn Spanish and work on my math, I don't have to switch apps between the two every day. Internally, from my point of view, when I was working on the growth team, it just made a lot of the optimizations at Duolingo work together better across all courses. So back when we had launched the independent math app, I was working on notifications in the main Duolingo app, and then the math team had to come to me to get all my insights and apply those to the math app. But when everything was under the same hood, it was just that I was working on notifications whether or not you were learning Spanish or math from the learner perspective. So it made things a lot simpler. And as we've added music and chess, we've taken that same process of embedding it into the same app. And I think it's worked well for us.
Awesome, thank you. And Sebastian, you said earlier you look for broken bridges between users and businesses. Can you expand a bit on that?
Absolutely. An example would be our dating feature that we've just launched. Typically, we see dating apps start with the matchmaking and then move you to a conversation. So we already have that conversation functionality. So it was kind of an easy step for us to try to do that matchmaking and then move you into the conversation. Same with, we have 3 areas: dating, payments, and commerce. So I already mentioned 2, and the last one is the commerce. And similar to Facebook Marketplace, in the Viber app, you can do the same. And a lot of the conversation is between businesses. So we are making it easier for businesses to sell their products on our Viber Marketplace.
And anyone can just create a business, right?
Absolutely.
You could be selling mushroom powders and...
Exactly.
Here we go. But whenever you download the Viber app, so you have dating, you've got commerce, you've got payments. What is that onboarding flow like when you've got such dramatically different cases that you're accommodating for?
Yeah, we want to make sure that those entry points are optimized for the specific user. So we're not going to slap, like commerce and payments and dating at the bottom. We're kind of adapting it based on that specific user journey. A lot of it is specific to countries. So Greece has a lot of the payments, and other countries, I think Ukraine is where we've launched the dating. And so we're surfacing the right products to the right people when they most need it.
Do you want to add anything, Piyush?
No, I wanted to ask a question actually from a data perspective for the user, because like people would want to not share the data on the dating app versus a messaging app, right? Is that built in separately? Is that backend data completely separate for you?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And even the experience itself is separate. So when you see a little heart icon in the Viber dating, within Viber, and you click dating, it opens kind of a separate app. It looks separate, but it's within the same app. And so to answer your question, yes, everything is very much separate. When you match with someone, that chat is not happening in the same chat as Viber between your normal friends and family and businesses. Even the businesses is its own separate section. So we keep everything separate.
Great. No, I just wanted to ask a question.
So it was a great question. So, and I'll come back to you, Piyush, as well. So as you add more jobs into your product, how should monetization evolve as a part of that as well? Should it follow usage? Should monetization like actually just lead the roadmap? For some companies that is the case, or should it stay deliberately constrained, especially in trust-sensitive products? You want to add, or do you want to go?
Oh.
I was going to go Piyush.
Oh,
Piyush?
sorry.
Yeah, please.
When you're looking at me, I thought you were looking at Simon.
No.
Sorry.
You.
Maybe she was looking at you.
No, it is a tricky one. Look, as he said, right? I mean, at the back end, it's a separate app altogether. It's just, whenever you create that, because the data is completely separate, I don't think there's going to be an overlap. Because, again, it goes back to, I think the more we are entering the world of AI and stuff like that, there is going to be a growth of users being concerned about their privacy, right, at the end of the day. And they don't want to overshare, data points. And based on what, I'm pretty sure you would have done your own data analysis to say that, okay, from this section, dating makes sense to sort of transition into. But the more jobs you sort of add, obviously the problem over here is, and it's slightly tricky, which is why like Uber slightly in that sense is better because it's still doing mobility across the board. Because as you rightly said, the monetization is going to be different. For a dating app, the monetization is going to be different. For a messaging app, the monetization is going to be different. So it's very, it's slightly trickier to sort of build that across the board, and see how exactly, And I wanted to ask you guys, I mean, how you guys are seeing monetization on your side when you have multiple sort of layers.
Yeah, Simon. Oh, I thought Simon was going to add something.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, you can go.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
we're so
should I
polite
go
here.
first?
Yeah, go for it.
I think the way we are looking at it is around maintaining that positive user experience. So we're looking at the monetization techniques that are going to be the most non-intrusive. For example, with ads, we're using native ads. When it's maybe less custom format, like a banner, we're showing that after a user has taken a specific action. So when you hang up the phone. You can make a call in Viber. We show an ad after the call is finished in the call summary. Within dating, we're using native ads. We're going to start using native ads, and actually we're exploring rewarded video.
So you're still within the ad space. You're not getting into the whole subscription with the dating side yet.
Well, we have Viber Plus, so that's the premium, where you can have additional features. There's, you can pay for calling, and also for dating, there will be a premium subscription as well. But that will also be supported by ads in the future, rewarded video ads. So it's something we're looking into.
Got it.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting sort of organizational design question that gets thrown up around how you monetize and value the different services. Like just my experience coming into Duolingo, for example, is I'm used to extreme autonomy. Like I've founded companies, like started, we own games, and my pitch was like, cool, we could like ring fence the revenue and like you'll pay me based on how much it does. And Louise, the CEO on the deal, was like, yeah, it's not like, not even, we're more about engagement. And that made it really challenging. But there's a trap that I think it's easy to fall into, that I've seen companies that I've worked for fall into before, where you end up with sort of like a Lord of the Flies, Hunger Games kind of system, where you set up a bunch of competing teams. And it really does require sort of extreme clarity and communication of company-wide objectives. Like in our case, it's very clear if there's ever a monetization engagement trade-off, engagement always wins. If it's a free user experience is improved, then even if we lose money, that's the winning formula. And so that makes it really difficult sometimes to sort of like find your way as a sort of secondary service. But the opposite is I think probably much worse.
Can you expand a bit more on that though as well?
Approach, yeah.
So it's a top-down approach, but you were saying just then, if it's engagement versus monetization, engagement always wins. For a lot of companies, monetization would be the thing that always wins. Can you just expand a bit on that and how that works in Duolingo and why that's the most important thing?
Yeah, so Duolingo's in a kind of privileged position, I guess. I guess they've earned it, but it's also they're in a situation where they're growing really aggressively. They've made a lot of money. They're sitting on a lot of money, and the strategy has recently not changed, but it's been clarified around driving engagement, improving the free service as a way to grow.
Has it shifted more towards that, pushing more engagement features as you've got bigger and you felt more comfortable?
That's the intentional sort of strategy, yeah. So like just one data point, for example, as I said, there's 10 million people that have logged in every day for a year. And the trick is now give them more to do, get them to drive more engagement, get the brand kind of associated with learning different things and evolve and deepen that experience more than making money. And I think that's helpful, but yeah, it's also challenging sometimes for independent teams.
But isn't that the basic difference between app and super app, right? App would always go for a ROAS-based or a strategy. Super app would always chase retention and, D1, D7, D30 retention in order to make more money, because you have multiple layers of making money through that, right?
Yeah, I guess like ultimately it's a business, and so ultimately you want to, but it's, yeah, in terms of like the day-to-day things you're prioritizing against, that's the challenge.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction, is super app when you're more focused on the actual engagement. Yeah. That could be it. And we've talked a little bit about the risks of expanding too far, right? But when does staying too narrow become a bigger threat? Can anyone tell me a little bit about that? I think you've got some comments on this.
Yeah, so we look at it as the value leakage, which is one of our biggest signals, and that's kind of guides our opportunities as well. When you have people in a group chat talking about dinner plans, and then they need to leave the app to make the booking or split the bill, those are opportunities for adding additional functionalities to complement that super app experience.
And how are you getting those signals that someone is leaving the app to go and make a booking somewhere else? Like, what are the signals that are telling you?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult when you have an end-to-end encrypted messaging app. But there are ways where users will interact with businesses, and those are publicly available, and it's safe. We see that people are sending PDFs to a certain business. We can use that as a signal as well.
And Piyush, did you want to add something?
Again, back when I was at Uber, it works as in a similar philosophy because it's technically not too narrow, but at the same time, because as I said, like it speaks to one genre. Like they transition naturally. So if you look at the evolution, they started with Uber, then they went to Uber Eats, and they went to Uber Courier, then they went to, so they started doing all the things that can, but that was more supply-oriented thing. What I mean by that is, how can drivers make more money? That was the objective when it started with that. Then slowly it went from a user perspective. So I think post 2019 to 2020 is when they started looking at this as a super app altogether. Before that, it was more about, okay, we have drivers, what else can we do with it, essentially. That's where Uber Eats concept came from. That's where Uber Courier concept came from. And then now the whole booking thing and everything, the entire transition. And the good thing is, because, look, as I said, like different category would have different, for example, I know people who would want a different mail ID for a dating app versus a booking app, for example, for whatever reason that they have. But within Uber, like the whole entire ecosystem, they are very comfortable with just sharing one sort of central data point across the board because it's Uber Eats, and Uber Courier, whatever. It's
delivery,
It's very easy that way, and it's a natural progression in that sense. So.
And for the Duolingo guys, I'll see who wants to take it. But like, what signals are you looking for that's showing that you're going too narrow, and how are you deciding what is the next thing that you're going to expand into?
Yeah, I think rather than talk to Duolingo specific strategy, because I'm not close enough to it, but I think engagement saturation is probably like the clear signal. So when you're accelerating, just having more time per user and more users, then that's probably a signal that not to distract yourself. When that starts to slow down or not accelerate, that's maybe a signal that you're competing for time and attention. For us, we're in the sort of edutainment business, and so we're competing against doom scrolling and gaming and that sort of thing. It's different if you're like serving a utility need, but yeah, that was Duolingo's accelerated every year, but it's accelerating sort of a less pace in the last couple of years, and that's coincided with them getting a new subject. So that's probably part of it. But getting more engagement, more things to do to keep people in the app more and grow more.
And how do you decide if the next subject is going to be Klingon or maths, though?
Oh, I don't think there's a clear...
Yeah, I guess the way I've seen it play out over the past few years is the decision of getting into a new subject at Duolingo is honestly very like mission oriented, more so than what is the business opportunity here or what is like the market saying. For example, the reason why math was one of the first subjects we went into was because Luis, our founder, is from Guatemala, and he has this very like personal belief that education can like change your life and like enable economic opportunity. And that was why, for a large part, Duolingo started with language learning because, for example, by learning English, you can double your income opportunity. And math was almost the next adjacent thing of if you are proficient at math, you will have X% more income or like likely to get that much more income. So it was very much about like the mission of making education available. And that was more of the conversation of is this a brand fit? Like, does this fit in? Rather than, oh, if we monetize math or if we capture the math market, we'll get this many extra DAUs.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one for you to highlight, though, as well, because it's not like I see ads for Duolingo saying, use this app and make more money, even though that's a kind of a social job to be done.
They do it, it's not going to work.
I mean, another fun example of that too was the way chess evolved, right? Because chess was like kind of a passion skunkworks project by a couple of senior people that just went off and wanted to make it, and initially it was rejected because Duolingo's not in the business of making games, right? But at some point along that journey, I think someone was talking to the Guatemalan education minister, and she shared this insight based on a lot of like real research that if you give kids chessboards, their learning their interest in learning and their ability to learn language and math goes up. And so that was the thing that flipped this from a game to like a game that helps you sort of helps further this sort of education mission. So yeah, it's kind of a roundabout way to get there.
Yeah, that's good. And what about the decision around music as well?
I don't know, I wasn't there, but I think it's probably similar to math. There was like a lot of passion for it. It's an obvious area where there's huge demand to learn, and there's a lot of associations between training your brain in music and then doing better at maths and learning generally.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. And where are super apps most often failing in ways that aren't necessarily obvious from the outside, but might be very painful or chaotic internally? So, Piyush, you want to add something in this?
I want to hear Sebastian first.
Sebastian has some comments.
I think the biggest challenge has been the war for the home screen real estate and what we surface first. And with various teams, you have the core team, you have your dating team, marketplace team. They all want to be on the home screen. I think the main way we address this is by customizing the experience for the individual users, showing them the most relevant screen and adapting it for that user and for the specific offerings within that country.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more because, again, the home screen of Uber is the real estate, right, at the end of the day. And that's the real estate that you want to capitalize the most on. And it does create a problem because everybody has their own goals. And then, sometimes as Simon was also pointing out about the top-down approach, that you have a priority clearly sort of structured. But when you're trying out something new, it takes time to sort of reach there. And during that time, you might lose out on the user that you're sort of trying to acquire through that strategy. So I think to reach to a place where it becomes very conditioning-based sort of approach, where you know that, okay, this user is coming in, now they're going to order a food, now they're going to go and book a flight or a train ticket or whatever. Like the entire journey is sort of understood and utilize it very well on the home screen because that's the most precious asset that you have. That becomes slightly trickier sometimes. I also feel, look, I mean, fact is that super apps have not been dominating till now. Like, just giving you the facts. I mean, if you look at the stats also, right? So it's not like, there must be a reason why users are not sort of hooking up as quickly as they are back in China and India as well, and Brazil as well. Like, I'm seeing sort of fraction. But in the West, it's not like that. So maybe we have to understand fundamentally, and maybe from the user perspective, why exactly is that? The second thing I'll say is, I don't know if it will fail, but like, it has to be more future-proof. And what I'm trying to say is like, when it comes to the world where it's going to be agentic AI and everybody is just going to, okay, book me a reservation here, do that. At the back end, they're going to interact with all the Uber API and Booking.com API and Expedia API or whatever. But at the front end, it's not, would there be a requirement of a super app? Because all is going to become conversational, right? So I don't know. And it could all be really bad. I was speaking with Sebastian about this, which is, Johnny Ive and Sam Altman, they're coming up with a device altogether.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, would you even need an app there? I don't know. So is it future-proof? I'm not sure. So that's my sort of biggest.
They're coming up with the device. OpenAI, ChatGPT has its own app store. Uber's on the app store. I can just... Uber's
how would the distribution look like in that world, right? That we don't know.
Exactly. And do you guys want to add anything to that one?
I mean, I'm going to age myself by giving an ancient history example, like from my times at Skype in the late 2010s. But like the Uber app kind of approach that we were taking, the projects that failed invariably were top-down rationales. We say, well, we're good at we own communication, therefore we should be able to compete in X. Therefore, we should bolt it on and force people that, or drive people or exploit our traffic. Invariably, those initiatives failed, whereas the ones where the users want, we just want to use the video calling, or, I just want I want it to work when I'm in my, for work. Those sorts of applications were more organic and user-led. They kind of lend themselves, they were more successful. So yeah, my speculation would be, super apps that come from the user use case first, like you're saying, they're already sharing PDFs, so they're already going off app, and we know it, we're going to serve it, as opposed to, well, we own this audience, how can we exploit it by doing other things? The former seems like a better strategy to me.
Thank you, guys. So it's 1 p.m. We're nearly at lunch, so last thing is just, what is one takeaway that you want to leave everyone here with today? So, Osman?
I guess one thing I'll say is, when thinking about like combining functions or jobs within an app, is using it as a way to stay true to your brand. I think at Duolingo, the reason why we liked having everything in one app is there's just Duolingo. There's not Duolingo Math, and having to spin up different brands for each service. And it's allowed us to really build, like, there's one green owl, and you know him as the Duolingo bird. And there's not separate things for different subjects. So thinking about how you can tell your brand story while like working on these sorts of combined efforts, I think is very powerful.
Thank you, Osman. Simon, go ahead.
Yeah, follow your users rather than trying to herd them.
Stay true to your brand, follow your users.
What else can I add? No, absolutely right. But just at the same time, for all the negative things that I've said about super apps, just want to join in on a positive note, which is like you still have an app like Amazon, which keeps on integrating new ideas all the time, right? I mean, they have gone from being books to like everything. They have everything.
Fashion.
Back in India, they have Amazon Pay and Courier and stuff like that. So at the same time, they develop an app on the basis of what the users are bringing in the entire ecosystem, not within their app, right? So it's slightly tricky, not how to monetize the users within their app, but how they're looking at the entire ecosystem, saying, okay, this is the new growth area, and I want to sort of capitalize on that, and then becomes like sort of a new super app. So that's also one strategy that is working clearly for them. So yeah, just wanted to end on that note.
Look for opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, kind of repeating what's been said already, but just continuing to serve your existing users and not going away from your current strategy. So for us, it's messaging. You know, what are they doing in messaging, and how we can better support that that process and add value in their day-to-day.
That's amazing. So stay true to your users, don't hurt them, look for additional jobs that are related, and stay true to your product. So thank you guys all for watching, and you're free to go now. And thank you all. Give them all a round of applause, please.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, panelists.